The war had ended 5 years ago, but the galaxy still carried its scars. Planets once bright with life were now silent, floating graves of burned metal and lost dreams. Humans had survived, but barely. They had fought the great alliance of alien empires, and somehow, against all odds, they had won. Captain Elias Kane was one of the few survivors from that terrible war. He had been a pilot, a strategist, and a fighter who had seen too much death. Now, he lived alone on a small, forgotten moon near the edge of the Orion Belt. His home was simple, a metal shelter surrounded by dust and rocks, with an old starship parked nearby like a sleeping beast. Every morning, Elias would wake before the twin suns rose. He would look at the pale horizon and wonder if peace truly existed or if it was just another dream. Humans told themselves. His heart was heavy with memories of battles, of fallen friends, and of someone else. Someone he once cared for deeply, though the memory was faint now, like a shadow in the fog. He sometimes dreamed of her, bright blue eyes that shimmered like starlight, silver hair flowing like liquid light. She had not been human. She had been from the Velari Empire, one of the alien nations that fought against Earth. But she was different. She had believed in peace. Her name, he could almost recall it, but it always slipped away. One day, as Elias was checking the solar panels outside his shelter, his scanner beeped, a sound he had not heard in years. A ship was approaching. He frowned and looked up. No one came here. This moon was off every trade route, forgotten even by pirates. A silver gleam appeared in the sky, growing brighter until it turned into a sleek, crystalline vessel that hummed softly as it descended. The ground trembled gently when it landed. Elias instinctively reached for his old blaster, but hesitated. Something about that ship felt familiar. The ramp opened with a hiss, and light spilled out. A figure stepped down, tall, graceful, glowing faintly in the dusty air. She wore silver armor with blue markings that shimmered under the twin suns. Her face was calm, her expression unreadable. But when she saw him, her eyes widened, filled with emotion, human. She whispered softly. Her voice carried a strange melody, like wind over glass. "Do you still remember me?" Elias froze. The voice, it struck something deep inside him. His heart pounded as his mind searched for the right memory. "Who are you?" he asked cautiously, though his voice trembled slightly. She took a slow step forward, removing the silver hood that covered her head. Her hair glowed like moonlight, and her eyes, yes, those blue eyes, burned with a soft light. "I am Princess Cerilyn of Velar," she said. "We met during the Galactic Wars. On Vetra 9, the name hit him like lightning. Vetra 9, the battlefield where thousands had died, where he had crashed behind enemy lines and somehow survived. He remembered being found by an alien patrol, captured, and saved by one of them, a young Velari who had risked her life to hide him from her own soldiers." Elias blinked slowly, his throat dry. "Cerilyn." He whispered the name like it was sacred. She smiled gently. "So you do remember." He took a shaky breath. I thought you were dead." Cerilyn's expression softened, but there was sadness in her eyes. "Many believe that. My father, the Emperor, ordered my exile when he discovered what I did. I betrayed my people to save you, a human soldier. 4 years I wandered, waiting for the war to end, waiting for a chance to find you again." Elias didn't know what to say. He felt 1,000 emotions fighting inside him: guilt, gratitude, confusion. He had never forgotten her kindness, but he had buried that memory under years of pain and loss. "Why now?" he finally asked. "Why come back after all this time?" Cerilyn looked up at the twin suns. "Because the galaxy is changing again. There are whispers of new wars. And humans, your people are no longer the same. They are stronger, but also colder. I fear what is coming next, and I need your help, Elias." He laughed softly, not out of mockery, but disbelief. "My help? I'm just an old soldier living in the dust. Those days are gone." She stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. "No, Captain, you were never just a soldier. You were the man who showed me that humanity was not what our leaders claimed, that humans could be brave, kind, and selfless. You once promised me that if peace ever came, you would find me under the same stars. Elias felt his chest tighten. He did remember saying that, just before she had helped him escape. It had been a desperate promise between two enemies, who had found something more than duty between them. I didn't think you'd take that seriously, he murmured. Cerulean smiled faintly. Velari never forget a promise. For a moment, silence filled the air between them. The soft hum of her ship was the only sound. Then Elias sighed and gestured toward his shelter. You might as well come inside. The suns will scorch us soon. Inside, the room was simple, a small table, a few chairs, and old metal walls lined with equipment. Cerulean looked around, curious but not judgmental. She sat gracefully, her eyes following him as he poured water into 2 glasses. Still living like a soldier, she observed softly. He shrugged. Hard habits to break. They sat in silence for a while before Elias spoke again. You said something about new wars. What did you mean? Cerulean's tone grew serious. The Velari Empire is not what it used to be. My father is gone, and the new council wants revenge for their defeat. They are building fleets again, secretly. Not just Velari, but others too. They call it the Celestial Pact. Their goal is to strike humanity before it grows even stronger. Elias frowned. I thought the alliance was broken after the Galactic Wars. It was, she said. But hatred doesn't fade easily. Some want peace. Others want vengeance. And there are rumors of a weapon, something ancient, hidden on one of your lost colonies. Elias leaned back, the weight of her words sinking in. And you came all this way to warn me? Cerulean nodded. And to ask for your help. The humans won the last war with courage and will. But this time, the enemy will strike from the shadows. You know how your people think, how they fight. I know how mine do. Together, maybe we can stop what's coming. He looked at her, the alien princess who once risked everything for him. The years had changed them both, but her eyes were still the same, full of purpose, full of light. Cerulean, he said quietly, the last time we fought side by side, the stars themselves burned. Are you sure you want to do this again? She smiled softly, a mix of courage and sadness in her voice. If it saves even one world from burning again, then yes. Elias stood slowly, walking toward the small window where the twin suns now blazed over the rocky horizon. The war might have ended, but peace had always been temporary in the galaxy. He could feel it in his bones. A storm was coming. He turned to her and nodded once. Then I guess I'm not done fighting after all. Cerulean's expression brightened with quiet relief. Then neither am I outside. The silver ship gleamed under the light of 2 suns. 2 old souls, once enemies, now allies again, had reunited on a forgotten moon. The galaxy had no idea that its next great story had just begun. The following days passed in quiet tension. Elias Kane and Princess Cerulean spent long hours inside the small metal shelter, talking, planning, and remembering. Outside, the twin suns of the forgotten moon painted the barren land gold and silver, while their ships stood like the relics of another time, one human, one Velari. Elias had not spoken this much to anyone in years. The loneliness of exile had become part of him, and yet, with Cerulean there, the silence no longer felt heavy. She was calm and graceful, but he could see the worry in her every movement. Something dark followed her, not in the physical sense, but in her thoughts. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, Elias worked on his old starship. It was an antique from the war, patched together with spare parts. Cerulean stood nearby, watching the faint blue sparks fly as he welded a metal joint. You still keep this ship running? She asked softly. He smiled faintly without looking up. She's all I've got left. If I'm going back into space, I'll need her. Cerulean hesitated, then asked, do you plan to leave this moon again? Elias stopped for a moment and looked at her. That depends on what I find out. You said the Celestial Pact is forming again. How sure are you? Her expression turned grave. I saw the signs myself. Fleets gathering in secret, new ships being tested near the edge of the Velari systems. The Council believes the humans are expanding too quickly. They fear another era of human control. Elias chuckled dryly. Control? The Earth is barely rebuilding. Most of our colonies are still dust. I know, Cerilyn said, shaking her head. But fear blinds reason. Some species cannot forget how humans defeated them. They believe it was luck or stolen technology. They refuse to see that it was your courage and unity that won the war. Elias sighed. Courage didn't save everyone. His eyes drifted toward the stars. I lost too many good people. Sometimes I wonder if humanity even deserved to win. Cerilyn turned to him gently. If not you, then who? The galaxy needed someone to stand up against the tyrants. You did that. You inspired even your enemies. He met her gaze, those blue eyes glowing softly under the dim light, and for a moment, the war felt far away. But before he could answer, the moon's silence broke. A loud beep came from the scanner inside the shelter. Elias frowned and quickly moved to the console. The radar showed a red blinking mark. Another ship entering orbit. Another visitor? Cerilyn asked, her tone alert. Elias checked the readings. Small ship, no ID code. It's not one of yours, I assume. She shook her head. No Valari code uses that signature. Then we've got trouble, Elias muttered. He grabbed his blaster from the wall. Stay behind me. They ran outside, the cold night wind biting at their faces. In the distance, a streak of fire cut across the dark sky, a small ship descending fast. Uncontrolled. It crashed a few kilometers away in a burst of smoke and dust. Elias didn't wait. He jumped into his old ship, activating the engines. Get in, he called to Cerilyn. She followed quickly, strapping herself into the co-pilot seat. The engines roared to life, shaking the ground beneath them. The ship lifted off, kicking up clouds of sand before soaring across the rocky plains. As they neared the crash site, they saw the wreck, a small black vessel half buried in the dust. Elias landed nearby, keeping the ship's blasters armed. Stay alert, he said as they stepped out. The air smelled of burnt metal. Smoke curled into the sky. Elias moved cautiously toward the wreckage, his blaster raised. Then, from inside the ship, a weak voice called out, "Help, please." Elias and Cerilyn exchanged a quick glance before running toward the sound. Inside the broken ship, they found a man, human, injured. His suit torn and his face covered in dust. Elias knelt beside him. "Hang on, soldier. Who are you?" The man coughed weakly. "Commander, Jace Rowan, from Earth Fleet." Elias's eyes widened. "Earth Fleet? They disbanded after the war. What are you doing here?" Jace tried to speak but winced in pain. "They're coming. Packed ships. Attacked our convoy. We tried to warn the colonies." Cerilyn leaned closer. "He's talking about the Celestial Pact." Elias helped Jace to his feet. "We'll get you to safety. Come on." They carried the wounded man back to Elias's ship. Inside, Cerilyn treated his wounds with a small medical kit while Elias sent a scan through the communicati. "On system, multiple signals," he muttered, staring at the screen. "He's right. There are ships approaching this system. At least 5, maybe more." Cerilyn looked up sharply. "They must have followed him." Jace gripped Elias's arm weakly. "They destroyed Outpost Theta. They're searching for something. An ancient weapon. Called the Star Forge." Elias froze. The name was familiar, a myth among soldiers. A weapon so powerful it could create fleets in days. "That's impossible," he said slowly. "The Star Forge was destroyed centuries ago." Cerilyn shook her head. "Maybe not. The Valari once searched for it too. If the Pact finds it, the galaxy will burn again." Elias stood silently for a long moment, staring at the radar screen. Red dots moved closer to their location. The quiet moon was about to become a battlefield. He turned to Cerilyn. "If we're going to survive this, we'll need to leave now." She nodded firmly. "Agreed." Elias powered up the ship's engines while Cerilyn secured Jace in the back. The engines screamed as the ship lifted into the night sky. In the distance, flashes of light appeared. The first shots fired from the approaching ships. "Hold on!" Elias shouted. The ship twisted and soared upward as laser fire streaked past them. The moon's surface exploded behind them in waves of dust and flame. Cerilyn's voice was calm but urgent. "To enemy ships on our tail. I see them." Elias pulled the ship hard to the left, diving through the craters. The controls shook violently, alarms blaring. Can this old thing even fight? She asked. He smirked despite the chaos. You'll see. He flipped a few switches, and the ship's old cannons roared to life. Bright plasma bolts shot from the wings, hitting one of the enemy ships. It exploded in a flash of fire and debris. One down. Elias yelled. The second enemy ship stayed close, firing relentlessly. Saralyn focused on the sensors. They're calling for reinforcements. We have minutes before more arrive. Then we'll make them count. Elias pulled the ship upward sharply. The stars spun around them. He cut the engines for a second, letting gravity drag them down before reigniting the boosters. The sudden maneuver threw the enemy ship off balance. Saralyn took the opportunity. She aimed one of the rear cannons manually and fired. The bolt struck true. The second ship erupted in light, breaking apart. Elias laughed, the old thrill of battle rushing through him. Still got it, Saralyn smiled faintly. So do I, but their victory was short-lived. The radar now showed more red blips, at least a dozen ships approaching from orbit, too many. Elias muttered, we can't fight them all. Saralyn's voice was steady. Then we run. There's a jump gate not far from here. If we can reach it, we can escape to neutral space. Elias nodded and accelerated. The stars blurred as the ship streaked across the sky. Explosions followed behind them. The packed fleet had arrived, firing from orbit inside. Jace stirred weakly. You have to warn Earth, he whispered. Elias looked back at him. We will. As the jump gate came into view, a massive ring of light floating among the stars. Saralyn entered coordinates. The gate's core began to spin, glowing brighter. Elias gritted his teeth as the ship shook from the enemy fire. Come on, hold together. The engines roared louder, metal creaking under the pressure. Then, with a flash of white light, the ship shot through the gate, disappearing into hyperspace. Silence followed. The stars stretched and bent around them, turning into streams of light. Elias exhaled slowly, his heart still pounding. Saralyn looked at him calmly. We made it, for now, he said. But this is just the beginning, she nodded. The Celestial Pact has revealed itself. The galaxy will soon know war again. Elias looked out the window, the endless stars shining like distant memories. He whispered, then we'll stop it, together. Saralyn smiled softly, her eyes reflecting the stars. Just like before. The jump through hyperspace ended with a loud shudder. The stars returned, bright and sharp, as Elias's ship reappeared in a calm region of space. Floating before them was a massive, broken structure, Orion Station. Once a proud hub of trade and diplomacy before the Galactic Wars turned it into wreckage. The old station drifted in silence, surrounded by glowing debris and frozen hulls. Its lights were dead, its heart cold. But to Elias Kane, it was perfect, far enough from known routes, forgotten by most of the galaxy. A good place to hide. Elias powered down the engines and guided the ship into a shadowed docking bay. The metal groaned as they connected. Inside the ship, the air was tense. Saralyn looked at the readings. No signals. No life forms detected. It's been abandoned for years. Elias nodded. Good. That gives us time to breathe. Behind them, Commander Jace Rowan still lay on the medical bed, weak but conscious. He opened his eyes and looked around, confused. Where are we? Orion Station, Elias answered. You're safe for now. Jace tried to sit up, but Saralyn gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Rest. Your wounds are not healed yet. He looked at her for a moment, the silver glow of her armor, her calm expression, and frowned slightly. You're Velari. Elias noticed the tension in his voice and stepped in quickly. She's not our enemy, Jace. She saved your life. Jace looked unsure, but nodded weakly. If the captain trusts you, that's enough for me. Saralyn gave a polite nod. Thank you, Commander. For a while, the three of them worked in silence. Elias checked the ship's systems while Saralyn monitored nearby space. They had escaped the Celestial Pact's fleet, but it wouldn't take long before they tracked their jump signature. We can't stay here long. Elias said finally. We need to send a warning to Earth Command. If the Pact has really returned, they'll strike fast. Saralyn walked closer to the window, gazing at the broken view of the station. This place might still have a long-range transmitter. We could try to repair it. Elias raised an eyebrow. You think this old junkyard still has working systems? She smiled faintly. You humans are not the only ones who know how to fix broken things. Elias chuckled. Fair point. Let's see what we can find. They suited up and entered the station. The air was thin and stale, the lights flickering weakly from backup power. The corridors were full of floating dust, broken panels, and long-forgotten machines. As they moved deeper inside, Elias felt a strange familiarity, echoes of the past. He had fought near this station once, during the early days of the Galactic Wars. He could still remember the sounds of battle echoing through its halls. Serlin walked beside him, scanning with a small glowing device. No life signs so far, but I'm detecting an old power core still active. Then that's where we'll find the transmitter. Elias said. After several minutes, they reached a large circular chamber, the old command center. Screens lined the walls, shattered but still blinking faintly. In the center stood the main console. Covered in dust. Elias wiped the screen and began typing. The console buzzed weakly to life. It's still connected to the network. Barely. Serlin leaned closer. Can it send a message? Maybe, he said, fingers moving across the keys. But we'll need to boost the power. She opened a small compartment on her arm and removed a glowing crystal, a Velari energy cell. This should help. Elias looked at her, surprised. You're giving me alien tech? She smiled softly. Consider it a gift for an old friend. He took the crystal carefully, connecting it to the console. The lights in the room brightened instantly, and the screens flickered to life. There we go, he muttered. Now, let's send that warning. He began recording the message. This is Captain Elias Kane. Form Earth Fleet. Urgent alert. Celestial Pact forces confirmed active. They've attacked Outpost Theta. Possible objective, ancient weapon codenamed Starforge. All human colonies must prepare for defense. He hit send, and the signal shot through the stars. Weak, but it would reach Earth eventually. Serlin watched quietly, then said, It's strange. Seeing you take command again. Elias gave a small smile. Old habits never die. Suddenly, a soft beep came from her scanner. Serlin frowned. Wait, I'm picking up another signal. Inside the station, Elias froze. I thought you said no life signs? It's faint. Could be mechanical. Or someone in stasis. They exchanged a quick look. Let's check it out, Elias said. They followed the signal through dark corridors until they reached a sealed door. Marked Research Bay 4. The metal was cold, the lights dead. Elias tried the control panel, but it didn't respond. Locked from the inside, he said. Serlin stepped forward and placed her hand on the lock. Her armor glowed, and a pulse of blue light spread across the door. With a hiss, it slid open. Inside was darkness, until their suit lights revealed rows of strange glass pods. Most were empty, cracked or destroyed. But one near the center still glowed faintly. A human form floated inside, pale, motionless. Elias stepped closer, his breath catching. That's impossible. Serlin read the faded label. Project, Aegis, Human Biodefense Prototype. Elias rubbed the frost from the glass and saw the face, a young woman, maybe 25, with dark hair and a faint scar on her cheek. This was a secret Earth project, he said slowly. I heard rumors, experimental soldiers designed to survive in any environment. Serlin looked at him. Do you think she's still alive? Let's find out. He pressed a few buttons on the control pad. The machine hummed, lights flashing. Then, with a hiss, the pod opened. Cold vapor filled the air as the woman inside gasped and fell forward. Elias caught her before she hit the ground. Easy, he said gently. You're safe. Her eyes fluttered open, bright green, glowing slightly. She looked around in confusion. Where am I? Orion Station, Elias replied. You've been in stasis for years. She blinked slowly, trying to process. Yours? Serlin knelt beside her. What is your name? The woman hesitated, then said, You need designation. Aegis 7. But I was called. Mira? Elias exchanged a look with Serlin. Mira, do you remember what happened before you were frozen? Mira frowned, struggling. There was an attack. Velari ships. They wanted our research. We tried to destroy everything, but her voice trailed off. Elias's eyes narrowed. The Star Forge. Were you part of that project? She looked at him, fear flickering in her eyes. Yes, we found something. An ancient machine buried on a dead world. We didn't know it was a weapon until it was too late. The last thing I remember was the explosion. Sarah stood slowly. If she's telling the truth, the forge might still exist. Elias nodded grimly. Then that's what the pact is after. Before they could say more, the station trembled violently. Alarms blared through the corridors. Elias ran to the nearest console. They found us. The packed ships tracked the signal. Sarah grabbed her communicator. Multiple ships inbound. They're boarding the station. Elias turned to Mira. Can you walk? She nodded weakly. I think so. Good. We're getting out of here. They sprinted back toward the docking bay as the station shook under enemy fire. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The sound of metal echoing through the halls told them the packed soldiers had already landed. Elias fired his blaster at the quarter lights, darkening their path. This way. Sarah moved beside him, her hands glowing with faint energy, ready to shield them. Mira followed, her movements slow but steady as they reached the hangar. Elias saw dark shapes emerging from the far side, armored figures with glowing red visors. The pack soldiers had arrived. Get to the ship. He shouted. Sarah Lynn covered their retreat, firing beams of blue energy that blasted through the floor. The attackers stumbled as explosions shook the hangar. Elias started the engines. Come on! Sarah jumped aboard just as the ramp closed. The ship roared to life and blasted out of the docking bay, leaving the station behind, a burning ghost in the dark, through the window. They watched Orion Station crumble as enemy ships surrounded it. Elias tightened his grip on the controls. Mira looked at him with quiet determination. They'll keep coming, she said. Until they find the forge. Elias nodded. Then we'll find it first. Sarah placed a hand on his shoulder. Together, he glanced at her, then at the stars ahead. Together, he repeated softly. The engines flared brighter as the ship vanished into the dark sea of stars. 3 souls bound by fate, racing against time to stop a weapon that could end the galaxy. The ship glided silently through the black void of space, leaving the burning wreckage of Orion Station behind. Elias Kane, Princess Sarah, and Mira Aegis 7 sat in tense silence, each lost in their thoughts. They had escaped the pact for now, but the threat was far from over. The Celestial Pact would not stop until the Star Forge was theirs, and if they failed, the galaxy would burn again. Elias stared at the stars stretching past the viewport. We need a plan, he said at last. The pact knows we exist now. They'll hunt us relentlessly. Sarah nodded, her silver armor reflecting the dim lights of the cockpit. We have information. Jace Rowan's warning, Mira's knowledge of the forge. We can use it. But we'll need allies. Earth Command? Elias asked. They'll listen? They will, Sarah said confidently. If we can reach them before the pact attacks any major colony, we might be able to form a defense. She paused. But it won't be easy. The pact controls more than half the outer systems. Mira, still weak from stasis, leaned back in her seat. I can help. I remember the research. I can tell you the location of the Star Forge. Almost? Elias frowned. We can't risk guessing. If they find it first, we're done. Mira shook her head. The coordinates were hidden. The exact location was encoded. But I remember a planet, a barren world at the edge of the Epsilon cluster. It's where the forge is, or at least where it was last active. Elias leaned forward, gripping the control console. Then that's where we go. Fast, Sarah activated the navigation system. I can plot a safe route, avoiding the main pack patrols. But we'll have to jump through uncharted space. It's risky. We could run into asteroid fields or energy storms. Elias smirked. Risk is our middle name. Mira gave him a weak smile. It's true. You humans never give up. As the ship sped toward the edge of the cluster, the tension in the cabin was broken only by the occasional beep of sensors, or the hum of the engines. Outside, stars stretched into streaks of light as hyperspace carried them closer to their destination. Hours passed, and the trio fell into a routine. Elias monitored the ship's systems. Serlin scanned for enemy ships. And Mira reviewed her memory logs, recalling details about the Star Forge. Each minute was precious. Every second counted. Suddenly, the alarm beeped sharply. Red lights flashed across the console. Packed ships, Serlin shouted, her eyes narrowing. Multiple contacts emerging from a nearby system. They must have tracked us through the jump gate. Elias didn't hesitate. Take evasive maneuvers. We can't outrun them in a straight line. He twisted the ship sharply, weaving through the void. Lasers cut across space behind them, streaks of red fire that narrowly missed the hull. Serlin activated the ship's shield boosters. Hull integrity holding at 70%. They're fast. Mira gritted her teeth. They're trying to corner us. If they hit the engines, we're finished. Elias leaned into the controls, dodging asteroids and debris in an uncharted region. Then we don't let them hit the engines. He fired the rear cannons at pursuing ships. One exploded, its pieces scattering like dying stars. Another veered dangerously close, but was deflected by Serlin's shield pulse. Not bad for an old war machine, Serlin commented with a small smirk. Elias laughed, adrenaline pumping through him. You get used to it. After all, I've been doing this for years, despite the chaos. Mira's voice broke through the tension. There, that planet, the readings match my memory. The Star Forge is somewhere on the surface. Elias looked out at the barren world spinning slowly beneath them. Its surface was a rough landscape of mountains and craters, with glowing veins of strange minerals scattered across the ground. The Star Forge must be hidden beneath this desolate place. We land there, Elias said firmly. We can't jump to any station now. They'll track us. Serlin nodded, agreed. But it's a dangerous descent, magnetic storms, and unstable terrain. We'll have to be careful. The ship descended through the planet's thin atmosphere. Violent winds buffeted them, shaking the vessel violently. Sparks flew from the engines as they dodged jagged rock formations. Elias gritted his teeth, concentrating on every movement. Almost there, Serlin shouted, "Prepare for landing." The ship touched down with a heavy thud on a flat plain surrounded by towering jagged cliffs. Dust and small stones swirled around them. The engines powered down, leaving the cabin in near silence. Elias exhaled slowly. Safe, for now. Mira looked out the viewport, awe in her eyes. It's like I remembered. The entrance to the forge should be nearby, in that canyon. She pointed toward a deep, winding gorge carved into the cliffs. Serlin checked her sensors. I detect structures underground. Definitely not natural formations. This is it. Elias grabbed his blaster and a backpack of supplies. Then let's move. The pact won't waste time once they track us here. The trio exited the ship, stepping onto the cold, rocky surface. The wind howled, carrying dust into their faces. Mira led the way, guided by her memory. This path, it's dangerous. Watch the cliffs. Rock slides are common. They moved cautiously, descending into the canyon. Shadows stretched across the walls as the twin suns disappeared behind the mountains. The canyon narrowed, forcing them into a single file line. The silence was broken only by the crunch of their boots on stone. Suddenly, the ground trembled. A deep rumble echoed through the canyon. Elias grabbed Mira's arm. What was that? Before she could answer, a massive section of rock fell from above, blocking their path. Serlin's energy pulse shattered the debris just enough to create a small passage. Careful, she shouted. This place is unstable. They continued, moving deeper underground. The air grew warmer, metallic. The walls glowed faintly with veins of energy minerals. Mira's eyes widened. We're close. The Star Forge is just ahead. At the end of the canyon, they found a massive stone door, covered in alien inscriptions. Mira ran her hands over the symbols. This is Velari writing, but it's older than any archive I've seen. This is definitely the Forge's entrance. Elias examined the door. We'll need to open it carefully. Traps, locks, probably both. Serlin stepped forward. I can handle the locks. The technology is Velari in origin. I can bypass the protections. Mira nodded. Hurry, we don't have much time. The pact will find us soon. For the next hour, Serlin worked on the intricate mechanisms. her hands glowing faintly as she manipulated the alien codes. Elias and Mira kept watch, alert to any sound or movement. Finally, with a loud hiss, the door slowly opened, revealing a massive chamber filled with strange machinery and glowing energy conduits. The Star Forge. Elias stepped inside, awe on his face. It's incredible. Bigger than I imagined. Mira looked around, eyes wide. It's still active. Somehow, but incomplete. It was designed to harness raw star energy, convert it into fleet-building capabilities. Entire warships could be created in days. Cerulean frowned. If the pack gets this, they could dominate the galaxy in weeks. Elias clenched his fists. Then we stop them. Here. Now. From the shadows, a low hum began. The floor vibrated slightly. The forge was alive, sensing their presence. Elias felt a shiver run down his spine. Cerulean whispered, "We need to stabilize it. Shut it down temporarily until we can remove the key components." Mira nodded. "I know how, but I'll need help. The mechanisms are heavy and delicate. We cannot afford mistakes." Elias squared his shoulders. "Then we do it together." Just like old times, as they moved toward the heart of the forge, a distant sound echoed, faint, metallic, a warning. The pack was coming. Elias glanced at Cerulean. "We have company. Get ready." She nodded, her eyes determined. "We'll face them, and we'll protect the forge, no matter what." The three of them prepared for the fight that would decide the fate of the galaxy. The battle for the Star Forge had begun. The chamber of the Star Forge pulsed with a strange energy. Its walls glowed faintly, and streams of light ran along the floor, like veins carrying power from the stars themselves. Elias Kane, Princess Cerulean, and Mira Aegis 7 stood at the entrance, weapons ready. Eyes scanning the shadows, the distant hum of approaching ships vibrated through the ground. They had little time. The Celestial Pact had discovered their location. Soon, heavily armed forces would swarm the planet, determined to seize the Star Forge. Elias tightened his grip on his blaster. "We hold them off here," he said. "We can't let them touch this weapon." Cerulean nodded. "We have the advantage. The terrain is ours, and the forge will protect us if we act carefully." Mira examined the console at the center of the chamber. "I can shut down the main energy flow temporarily, but I need you both to cover me. One mistake and the forge could overload." Elias glanced at her. "You got it. We've survived worse." They moved toward the heart of the chamber. The Star Forge towered over them, its core glowing like a small sun. Energy currents crackled, illuminating the room with blinding flashes. Elias and Cerulean positioned themselves at strategic points, ready to intercept any intruders. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed through the chamber. From the shadows, figures emerged, armored soldiers with glowing red visors, moving swiftly and silently. The pact had arrived. "Here they come!" Elias shouted, firing his blaster. Plasma bolts streaked across the chamber, striking the enemy but barely slowing their advance. Cerulean stepped forward, her hands glowing with a bright energy. She sent out pulses that knocked several attackers off their feet. "Stay close," she called to Elias. Mira worked quickly at the console, her fingers flying over the alien controls. "I need 5 more minutes. Keep them away." Elias dodged a blast and returned fire. "They're too many." Cerulean's voice rang out calmly. "Quantity isn't always strength. Focus, Elias. Aim where it counts." He followed her advice, targeting key enemies and using the chamber's structures for cover. The pack soldiers faltered, confused by their precision and strategy. Mira's voice was strained. "Almost there. Just a few more seconds." She pulled a lever, and the energy flowing through the forge began to waver, dimming slightly. The enemy commander, a tall figure with a crimson crest on his helmet, advanced through the chaos. "Stop them!" he shouted. His soldiers rallied, pushing forward with renewed force. Elias noticed the commander moving closer to Mira. "Cerulean, protect the console." Cerulean formed a barrier of glowing energy, deflecting blasts aimed at Mira. Elias engaged the commander directly, their weapons clashing with a spark-filled impact. Despite the commander's skill, Elias held his ground, dodging and countering with precision. Mira's hands moved rapidly. "Done," The forge is stabilized temporarily, but we can't stay here long. The chamber shuddered. The star forge's energy pulsed as if sensing the danger. Elias realized that the forge was alive in its own way, responding to their actions. Cerulean grabbed Mira. We move now. Follow me. They ran toward the exit, Elias covering their retreat. The packed soldiers pursued, but the combination of Cerulean's energy pulses and Elias's tactical skills kept them at bay. Outside, their ship awaited, engines humming softly. Elias opened the ramp. Get in. Mira climbed aboard first, followed by Cerulean. Elias jumped in last, slamming the ramp shut. The engines roared to life, lifting the ship off the surface as explosions erupted below. The Star Forge's chamber shook, but the structure held. For now, Elias piloted the ship skillfully, dodging energy blasts from enemy fighters emerging from the planet's orbit. Cerulean fired defensive pulses from the ship, striking the pursuing ships with deadly accuracy. Mira monitored the systems, guiding them toward a safe jump point. Almost there. Mira shouted, "Coordinates locked. Jump in 3, 2, 1. The ship accelerated, engines flaring. A bright flash enveloped them as they jumped into hyperspace. The pursuit ships vanished, unable to follow. Silence returned inside the cabin. Elias exhaled, relief washing over him. We made it. Cerulean leaned back, exhausted but smiling faintly. For now. The pact will not give up so easily. Mira gazed at the stars streaming past. The forge. It's safe for now, but it cannot stay here. Someone must hide it or dismantle it completely. Elias nodded thoughtfully. Agreed. Humanity and Velari both have to ensure it never falls into the wrong hands again. He glanced at Cerulean. We've survived wars, betrayals, and the galaxy itself. If we work together, we can protect this. Cerulean reached out, placing her hand over his. We always have, and we always will. Mira smiled, her green eyes glowing softly. Then let's make a promise. No matter what comes next, we won't let fear or hatred destroy what we fought for. Elias looked at the stars. I promise, Cerulean repeated. I promise, Mira nodded. I promise. The three of them sat quietly, watching the light of distant stars. The galaxy was still dangerous, full of threats and shadows, but hope had returned. Humans and Velari, once enemies, now stood together, a living testament to courage, friendship, and the power of unity. Days later, they arrived at a hidden Velari research facility on a remote moon. The Star Forge was carefully dismantled, its energy core sealed and secured. Scientists from both species would study it, ensuring that no single force could ever wield its power for destruction. Elias walked through the facility, marveling at the cooperation between humans and Velari. Soldiers trained alongside scientists, sharing knowledge and stories. For the first time in years, he felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. Cerulean stood beside him, watching the new generation of allies prepare for a better future. Do you remember our first meeting? She asked softly. Elias chuckled, the memory vivid. How could I forget? A Velari princess saving a human soldier in the middle of a war. I never imagined we'd end up here, working side by side. She smiled, her eyes reflecting the soft light of the moon. The galaxy changes, Elias, but some things, some bonds, remain. Mira approached, carrying a small container holding a glowing core from the Star Forge. It's over for now, she said. We've done everything we can to protect it. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. You did more than that, Mira. You helped save the galaxy, Cerulean added, and together, we'll ensure it stays safe. Humanity has proven time and again that courage and heart can defy even the darkest forces. Elias looked out at the stars again, a smile forming. Then maybe, just maybe, the next generation won't have to fight like we did. Cerulean nodded. They'll fight differently, with wisdom and unity, not hatred and fear. As they watched the stars, a peaceful calm settled over them. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries, but for now, humans, Velari, and allies stood united. The Star Forge, a weapon of immense power, was hidden and safe. And for Elias Kane, Princess Cerulean, and Mira Aegis 7, hope burned brighter than any star. They had survived the war, faced the Celestial Pact, and protected the galaxy. And in the end, the bonds they had formed, trust, friendship, and courage, proved stronger than any weapon, stronger than any empire. Elias looked at Saralyn one last time. "Do you still remember me?" She smiled warmly. Always, and for the first time in many years, Elias Kane felt a true sense of peace. The galaxy was dangerous, yes, but together. They had proven that hope, courage, and humanity could shine brighter than any darkness. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a reminder that the universe was vast, full of possibilities, and full of life worth protecting.